Hi, hello everyone. Let's start a discussion on the very important topic that's the suspicious activity reporting. How to do the suspicious activity reporting to the financial intelligence units, and what your role in the financial crime prevention. So let's discuss on that topic in detail, and I'll explain you the each field in detail and how what are the fields in the suspicious activity reports. And so let's start this video. So what is a suspicious activity report, and we also call the SAR report. So a suspicious or activity report or the SAR report, it is a confidential document which is prepared by the financial institution like bank, insurance firm, or the broking firm, to file the financial crime enforcement network in FinCEN, and to file the suspicious activity report to the financial intelligence units of that country, and it's alert the law enforcement to potential instant and financial crime that will instant the financial crime such as the money laundering, terrorist financing, and fraud. To file the suspicious activity, we it is and the critical tool to in fight against the illicit financial transaction, illicit activities, or to prevent the financial crime in the financial domain. So that's the benefit of filing the suspicious activity report. So let's move on the next slide, which is who is a file the SIR, suspicious activity report. So there is a various financial institution and business are required to file the suspicious activity report under the BSA Act. So these include the bank and the credit union, or the money laundering and service businesses, money service businesses, or the cash on and card clubs, broker, dealer, insurance companies. These are the financial institutions. They can file these suspicious activity report to the financial intelligence units. So let's move on the next slide. So the five pillar of the SAR. So what the key five pillar and what should include in that SAR document. So it's the typically contain the information about the SAR document. So let's first the who. The who stand for it's and the 5W and analysis. We can say that it is an 5W analysis. So the individual and entire involved in the suspicious activities. So the beneficiaries and the entities who and the individual person who are involved in that suspicious activity, or the compliance scheme of that financial institution are identify this is an suspicious activity. So who are the person, or the who are the entity that involved. So that we should earn in the who. And then the what. So the nature of the activity, the what are the nature, what are the rules that that generate the alerts for that the transactions, or that the customer monitoring process, or the word check. So large case deposit and wire transfer high risk. So these are the transaction will done by that customer or that entity. So we need to do the nature of that activity in that report, and the when this transaction will happen, in what amount that transaction will happen, the date and the timing, and the beneficiary and the sender and receiver, all these thing details we will include. The location of that transaction will happen, the address, whatever the inputs we need to provide, so we need to add these inputs. And then the where, the location where the activity took place, like branch name, account holder, the account number, the transaction ID, or it is, and the payment type is a SWIFT, RTGS, NEFT. So the payment type is also mentioned, and the reason is activities considered as a suspicious based on the specific red flags and the observation. So all this data, why that activity, the compliance officer or the compliance manager will think this is and the suspicious activity and need to update it to the financial intelligence unit. So they will file these thing to the financial intelligence unit. So these are the five pillars of the SAR activity. So let's move on the next slide, which is the common red flag that will generated by the system. that will generated by the transaction monitoring system. So first one is a suspicious activity often involve a red flag that stand out from the typical customer behavior. Okay, the customer behavior or the customer pattern, which will be the change, and there the inputs we take from the account opening, that may be change or that may be deviated by customer. So such kind of the transaction red flag will be done by the system. So unusual transaction, large and frequent and unstructured cash deposit that don't match the customer known business or the customer activity or the customer income level. So we need to do that. These are the unusual transactions which are not done by that customer. So we will identify such unusual transaction and the customer behavior, while the compliance team or the compliance manager, while collecting the data or the gathering why they did such kind of the transaction, what are the their motive, why they do such kind of transaction at that time. If the customer is easiness, refuse to provide the information which required by the finance compliance team, and the nervousness when question about the transaction, why they did the transaction. So these are the nervousness and not confident to give all the answer. So these are comes under the customer behavior. That's why we file the SIR. And the geographic risks, like the transaction involve high risk jurisdictions known for the money laundering and the terrorist financing, or the sanctions country, or the terrorist area or the terrorist region. So that's is one of the reason the system will do the red flag. And the inconsistency activity, a sudden and unexplained change in the customer transaction pattern and the behavior of the transaction, suddenly push the account in their account and remove the funds. These are the things that will generate the alerts, and on that basis the compliance team or the compliance officer will do the analysis and then file the suspicious activity report to the financial intelligence unit. So let's discuss on the SAR filing process, how the SAR will file, what the happen in the financial institution before the filing the SAR. So first one is a detection, and employee identify the suspicious activity or the transaction. So they feed the transaction data to the transaction monitoring system, and that the monitoring system will apply the rule or the business logic or the business rule that the transactions, and if they find that it is under suspicious transaction and they breach this rule which we are develop in that system, so they generate the alert for that. So these are the alert generated transactions. Then the internal reporting, the internal employee report the activity to the design the compliance officer with their input. And if the internal officer or the internal employee found that it is and the fails positive, so then he will close. But it thinks that it is maybe the suspicious activity report as per the data, then he will send that to the compliance officer, and the further investigation will done by the compliance officer. So then the investigation parts come. The compliance officer investigate the matter and gather all the relevant information from the customer or from the branch, the home branch of that customer, or the transaction branch of that customer, or the beneficiary of that customer, to do the word check, a list word check, or the account of that customer monitoring, and the name of that customer, the beneficiary name, all these things done by the the investigator or the software or the system. And then if the compliance officer will identify this is the suspicious activity report, or he is not satisfied to make that the transaction has a fails positive, so then he will meet the threshold and SAR, and the compliance officer will electronically fine and then file the complaint to the financial intelligence unit or the FinCEN organization within the 30 days. And there is a requirement, if the such transaction we identify, then we need to detect, or we need to file the suspicious activity report to the financial intelligence unit within the 30 days, or the central bank. And then the confidentiality, the fact that SAR is file has been filed and it is contain the most confidential, and sharing this information can lead to several penalties. So we don't share this information to anyone. It is an the confidential document. It is between the financial institution and the financial intelligence unit or the central bank of that country. This communication will happen, and further the investigation is done by the that financial institution unit. on the SAR after filing. So let's the questions, the consecuted of not filing the financial the suspicious activity report. If some financial institution are not file the suspicious activity report, if they find it is an the suspicious transaction, so they face some the challenges. Then the filing the filing to file the require the suspicious activity report can result the significant consequences for both the financial institution and the individual who is responsible for that transaction. So there is the monetary penalties. So the financial intelligence unit or the regulator will to take high charge or to highly do the fines or the raising the thousands and million to collect the fines from that financial institution, and the civil and criminal charges will take on that institution and on that employee who is not do the filing. So there this thing is there, and that financial institution reputation will get damaged, loss of the public trust and the business from that financial institution, and the news will spread over all the market, and they the bad impression of that financial institution will spread over all the market. So and the regulatory scrutiny will there happen, the increase the oversight from the government agencies, and the continuously government agent will do monitoring on that financial institution continuously. Audit will happen there. So to avoiding all these things, they should to report the transaction monitoring system whenever they find the suspicious activity or the suspicious report for the particular client. So let's move on the conclusion part, and what is the role of your in that the suspicious activity report. So everyone in the financial institution from the frontline staff to management play a crucial role in the process of the suspicious activity report, to file the suspicious activity report, to provide the data of that customer, the customer detail to the compliance team, or help the compliance team to prepare the STR report, being the vigilant recognize and flags and the following internal reporting procedure. You help to protect your institution and contribute the national security for fighting against the financial crime, to help your nation to fight against the financial crime. So that is the important. So thank you guys for attending this session. But let me show you the suspicious activity report, how it's look like, and what are the fields we the financial compliance team will add. So these the suspicious activity report basically I download from the Federal Reserve government. So there the date and all these things. So there is a different kind of the suspicious activity laws they mention here. So the checkbox if only correcting the report the their thing. Then the first part there is, I think, the three parts, fourth part is there in that report. So there is other details, you can read these details. The fourth part in that report. So in the first part there is a reporting financial institution information. So the financial institution we are going to report that the suspicious activity report. So they will mention there the information like the name of the financial institution, even number, the address of that head office address of that financial institution, and the primary federal regulators of that the financial institution will cover the city, state, and the the pin code of that, and the address or the branch of office there the that financial activity will occurs. Is it occur in multiple branch or the single branch, city, pin code, or the state of that, and the account number is affected by that the activity, the close or not close, whatever that thing they should mention. And then they write down the suspects information. So who did that the fine, the who are they think it is, and the suspicious activity. So again mention their last name or that entity name, first name, middle name, address of that, and their the government ID, SIN, EIN or TIN number, or the PAN number, or the Aadhaar number if it is in India, then city, state code, pin code, and the country where the suspect will live, and the mobile number or phone number, or the work included area, and there the occupation and the business type. It is in, it is the business, and the date of birth, admission, or the form of identification of suspect, the forms, the documents, how they identify it is and the suspect. So license, passport, or align registrations, or other information, or their government ID number if they have. So that things they will include in that details. And the relationship to the financial institution, so it is an accountant, agent, or the customer, or director, or the employee, officer, stakeholder, attorney, borrower, or broker. Who is that the relationship with that financial institution of that the suspect, the thing, suspect information we need to add. And is the relationship is inspire, is yes or no, date of suspect, termination or resignation, if is still the employer at that financial suspect, termination and resign. So all these things detail we fill in that form. And then the suspicious activity report, it is and the most important thing. So date or the range that done by the suspicious activity of that prospect in the dollar of amount, how much they do the suspicious, the fraud of that transaction, the summary or the character of suspicious activity is there, that, or the is the new or other that not include there, so we should mention there. And the amount of loss prior to recovery, amount recover, how much the amount they are recover, how much amount they are not able to recover. His suspicious activity had material impact on otherwise affecting the financial soundness of the institutions, or his institution bonding and company been notified. Has any law enforcement agency already been advised by telephone, written communication, and other? So that is that the enforcement agency name will mention or tick on there. So this thing is there if other they mention there. And the name of person or contact law enforcement agency, and the name of the person contact at the law enforcement agency, if that will happen there. So we need to mention their name. If there is no law enforcement agency will contact, so that should be that things will be the blank. And the contact or for the assistance, if the financial intelligence units want some assistance from the bank, to they need some reports or some data from the banks. So then we will add the details of the last name of that person who will provide or assist for that financial institution, first name, middle name, or there the title or occupation, or the mobile number, or the date, the prepare of that in an agency, that all these things so they need to mention. And then the suspicious activity information or description that should be explained here. So all these things needed for the suspicious activity report, and these are the typical format of the suspicious activity report. You can check, and I'll add to link of that attach in the description box. So thank you so much guys for attending my video, and please like and subscribe my channel, so that will motivate me to create more and more videos for you. Thank you so much guys.